What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in for another edition of the 2025 NFL offseason review. We're going with the AFC South tonight. I am your host, Jan Kornhauser. I'm here with my co-host, Mike Goodpaster. Mike, are you ready?
I'm always ready, especially to talk AFC South football. The worst division in football. I believe it's safe to say this is the one division we know a team's not going to win a Super Bowl from this season.
Well, if any team has a shot, it's a team we're going to be talking about right now, and that's the Houston Texans. And I say that because they have the best quarterback in the division, which isn't saying
doesn't
much.
take anything.
Ain't saying much, but CJ Stroud is one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he'll get back on track from what we saw in his rookie season. But this team had a lot of turnover this offseason. They had a lot of moves on both sides of the ball, particularly on offense are the ones that are kind of concerning to me. So let's dive right in. Mike, what was their best offseason addition or extension?
I can tell you this. This team was one off season away from being a big-time Super Bowl contender. That's no longer the case. I mean, when you look at this, I think they took serious steps back in this offseason, Dan. I think they're still probably the class of a very bad division, but you didn't add any quality veteran talent during the offseason. Instead, you relied on a trio of offensive linemen, Lincoln Tomlinson, Ed Graham, Cam Robinson. The offensive line also lost All-Pro Laramie Tunsil. That's your blindside protector. But the big thing to me here is the skill positions really dropped off. I know you're talking about a big addition. Yep. I mean, I guess you would have to go with Christian Kirk's a decent addition, but probably Laken Tomlinson at guard. I like the Cam Robinson's okay at tackle, but I think they lost way more than they gained this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, the offensive line moves are the questionable ones for me as well. Swapping Cam Robinson with Larry Tunsil with Cam Robinson is not a good trade-off. But to stick with the question, my best offseason addition, I'm going to go with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson Jr. They brought him over in a trade from the Philadelphia Eagles. He adds to an already potent secondary. They are stacked back there. Derek Stingley, one of the best young corners in the league. Jalen Petrie, who's their slot corner and a safety hybrid. Another solid player in the secondary. And now they add yet another feisty ball hawk, fresh off of an impressive Super Bowl win and postseason run with the Eagles. And, let's move on to the next question. Biggest loss, Mike? Because you touched on a few names. Who's the biggest loss?
Well, the biggest loss to me has to be Laramie Tunsil. I mean, he's your starting left tackle. He's the blindside protector for a young quarterback who has all the abilities, I think, to be a top 5 quarterback in this league. I don't see why you would do that. I mean, to me, defensively, they're going to be really good. But offensively, this team did nothing but go backwards, I think. So they're not terrible on offense, but you can't lose the kind of guys they lost. And, Houston allowed 54 sacks last year, and now you're going to take away the one all-pro offensive tackle you had. So, I mean, you throw that in with skill position, I'm just not a big fan of what the Houston Texans did in this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I did have Tunsil written down there, but not to beat a dead horse. I'm going to go with Stephon Diggs. Yes, he got hurt last year. He only played about 39% of the total snaps of the season due to injury, but he was a big piece of this offense when he was healthy. And, I mean, outside of Nico Collins, they really have nothing else at the receiver position outside of these two rookies that they brought in this offseason in second-rounder Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State and teammate Jalen Noel, who's more of a slot guy. But I don't know how they expect Stroud to take that next step. Like I said at the beginning, I think he could take that next step in the third season, but I don't know how they could put him in this position with just Nico Collins, who is also coming off of an injury, and two day two rookies who, sure, they have years. Jaden Higgins does fit on the outside. Jalen Noel could be a really solid slot guy, take over for Christian Kirk at some point in the season. But The receivers are going to be new. At least one starter is going to be, well, two of the starters are going to be new. Their offensive line is going to be completely revamped. Ariante Irsay, their other second-round pick, offensive tackle, might be one of the starters at some point during the season. So there's a lot of things that got to go right for this Houston Texans offense. Now, from the biggest loss, Mike, to the non-first round rookie who's going to have the biggest impact now, since they didn't have a first round pick, all of their picks are on the table here. But who do you think is going to have that top impact as a rookie?
I think the Noel kid from Iowa State. I think he is a dynamic, shifty weapon who really is good at creating space. I think he's going to do great things for them. And as we talked about, he's going to have to. I mean, you also got Jaden Higgins in the second round. And when you throw that in with Jalen Noel, I mean, they obviously know each other. They played together at Iowa State. At least one of these guys has got to come up big this season to make up for the loss of Stephon Diggs, et cetera, with this offense.
I mean, that's actually a really good pick. I'm a huge fan of the player and a huge fan of the role he's going to have with this offense potentially. So Jalen Noel is a really sneaky good option, especially I think in the second half of the year once the team realizes that Christian Kirk isn't quite right. But I'm going to go with Jaden Higgins, his teammate, who's probably, like I said, is going to be starting on the outside opposite Nico Collins. He's a perfect option out there, 6'4", 215, physical profile coming out of the draft. And I see no reason why he shouldn't be starting.
Dan, don't you think it's kind of a bitch move to just pick the guy that was picked in the second round?
Screw it. We're going to do it live because he's really, honestly, I don't see how he doesn't play at least 70% of the snaps as a rookie.
Yeah, they have no wide receivers. They drafted him with the second pick. They're paying him more money than anybody else. He's going to play.
They have literally no one else. But I really like that Noel pick. And finally, did this team get better, worse, or kind of stay the same?
They got worse, but in this division, you're probably going to win it with 9 or 10 wins. So I don't know. You got a lot of young guys you are banking on, and I don't think a guy like Stephon Diggs is as big a loss as you think. I think a lot of times Stephon Diggs is more trouble than what he's worth. So if you hit on the draft picks, maybe you can win more than 9 or 10 games. But I think just from looking at this offensively, especially the offensive line has to be hugely concerning. The offensive line didn't get better, and that should have been your number one goal here because your defense was already solid. You make the offensive line good, it's not as big a deal who the weapons are. But to me, I think they kind of did this ass backward. Now, they did pick, I think, an offensive lineman at number 3. But, I mean, you went 2 and 4 as wide receivers. And to me, I think guard and tackle are more important than wide receiver.
I mean, they're going to have, at the very least, 4 new starters on that offensive line.
Yeah, and it's not a horrible thing if you give up 54 sacks the year before. The problem is you should have added 4 new guys and kept Laramie Tunsil.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Ingram and Laken Tomlinson at guard potentially. I'm not a fan of Cam Robinson at left tackle. He was okay in Minnesota.
Yeah, he's okay.
He's not good in Jacksonville. And I mean, I guess Ariante Irsay is going to start at some point at one of these tackle spots, probably at some point this year, as he should, because he's probably better than whatever they're going to have a right tackle. But yeah, I think this team got worse in the offseason. As much as I hate to say it out loud, they also did bring in Trent Brown from Cincinnati, who I think was also injured.
He sucks too. Hey, real quick, everybody, pound the like button if you get a chance, because for some reason Facebook's not picking us up live, I don't think, tonight.
Oh, no. Well, they're missing something special because now we're going to move on to the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, my favorite subject.
Your favorite thing to talk about outside of the Bengals. So Indianapolis has done some things this offseason. Nothing overly exciting, but let's dive right in. Best off-season addition. If you don't mind, I'm going to start us off because I'm sure you're going to have something fun to say about this one. I'm going to go with quarterback Daniel Jones. And I'm going to say Dan Jones mostly because all he has to do is be average, and maybe this team cannot suck. Maybe they can make a play for the division because this division is below average. That's all he has to do, just be average. That's it. You don't gotta carry anybody. You don't got to throw 300 yards a game.
Yeah, but we have like 5 or 6 years that shows us that he's not.
You know, he was below average. The one year the Giants made the playoffs a couple of years ago and beat the Vikings, he was below average that year. Everyone in New York was celebrating that he threw 15 touchdown passes that season.
And that was probably the season, wasn't it?
It was a career year. Yeah. And man.
Yeah. So why would that be a good addition then? Other than the fact that Anthony Richardson probably should be playing in the WNBA instead of the NFL.
He's my choice because of A, the importance of the position, as we know, and B, of how piss poor the other options are, particularly Anthony Richardson. And Florida Gator fan over here. I watched him play in college, his 13 starts, unimpressed. He's not gotten any better in the NFL. The accuracy is still an issue. The decision making is still an issue. Knowing when to put zip and not is still an issue. The footwork is erratic. It's all over the place. An NFL quarterback completing 50% of his passes is disgraceful. This is 2025. You can get away with that in 1970 because all your receivers are getting mauled.
No, it's because in 1970 the ball was usually thrown 15 yards or more down the field on most plays.
Exactly. You're going to get rocked. Your receivers are getting rocked. You're throwing deep balls, and it was a different era. So completing 50% of your passes was great. However, in 2025, your receivers can't be touched. The quarterbacks can't be touched. And all the rules are in the offense's favor. There's no excuse to be this bad. So all Jones has to be is average. The team does have some talent otherwise, but it's nothing special. But all they got to do is maybe win 8 games in this division, 9 games in this division to win the division, make the playoffs. And then who knows? Just make the dance. But I'm going to go with Dan Jones.
All right. I would normally say Cam Bynum or Travarius Ward.
2 great options.
Tyler Warren was a great option. But to me, I think it's Lou Anarumo. I think Lou Anarumo is a hell of a defensive coordinator. I think people forget the impact he had on that Bengals team that went to the Super Bowl a few years ago. And I think what happened in Cincinnati is they let all the defenders go. It's really hard. It's kind of an offshoot of what Bill Parcells said about buying the groceries. The problem was they basically empty out the pantry and nobody bought groceries for Lou Anarumo. And the team was a mess last year for about the first 10 or 11 weeks. But still, with that personnel not being that good, that team made a run, almost made the playoffs, and the defense played much better. And I think a lot of that went to Lou Anarumo. I think that basically he was put in a bad situation in Cincinnati last year. The Bengals since the Super Bowl, they've given away guys like Jesse Bates, Von Bell. Of course, he came back, but not the same without Jesse Bates next to him. You've lost a lot up front, guys like DJ Reader, and they have not been able to replace these guys. Sam Hubbard got old. I mean, there wasn't a lot to work with. So I'm going to say Lou Anarumo. I think he will do a great job as a defensive coordinator. I think this defense will be really good, but I still think this team's not winning more than 5 games.
Mike, I'm not going to lie. I am a little surprised that you mentioned Lou because you were very critical of him in the second half of the season and even coming into the
offseason. I'm never critical of him. I'm critical of Zach Taylor. I'm critical of the Bengals front office, which screwed Lou Anarumo. I mean, you also know that I'm the one that even back when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl was saying this is because of the defense. I mean, that's a team that was down 21-3 to the Chiefs and held the Chiefs to 3 points the rest of the way to win the damn game. So I think it's a huge upgrade over what they've got in Indianapolis or what they've had in Indianapolis.
So we just did the biggest offseason or best offseason edition. You went with Lou Anarumo, the defensive coordinator. Now, Mike, give us the biggest loss.
The biggest loss would be Irsay, the owner, because now you've got his daughter running a team, and that's never going to work out good because, let's face it, a woman probably shouldn't be running an NFL team, especially one who has a history of staying on the sideline with a headset on to see what the coaches are doing to make sure they're making the right calls because she has no idea. They're screwed.
Man, woman, old, young, it's never good when the owner or the ownership group or whoever gets involved with football operations and football.
No, this is just basically Jerry Jones with a wig.
It never works. It didn't work with
Jerry Jones with a wig.
Doesn't work with Dallas. It just doesn't work, and we've seen it across all the sports. It doesn't work when Dolan does it with the Knicks.
Yeah, but especially when it's a woman, that's just stupid.
It dumps. It just doesn't work. Ownership has their place, pay the bills, bring in smart people, and let them do their jobs. But Irsay was huge loss. R.I.P.
He's a huge loss just because his daughters run the team now. It's not like he did a great thing, but I'll tell you this. Robert Irsay is a man who I've never liked because just the history, the drug use, the crap he did, the crap his dad did. But when you see the impact on people in the state of Indiana, especially in the city of Indianapolis, that he had with what he gave back to the community, you can say that's a guy who made a comeback in probably the last quarter of his life and had a lot of redeeming values after it was all said and done. And that's something that his father never figured out how to do.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on from the Irsay family, again, RIP, I'm going to go with the biggest loss on the field being center Ryan Kelly.
Well, no shit, that was easy. And you get to go first on both. That's just a joke. But go ahead.
I'm going to say Ryan Kelly, center, left to go to Minnesota. I believe he got injured for part of last season, but prior to that, he was pretty steady for them, one of the better centers in the league. And hopefully he gets back on there. He is 32 years old, going to be 33 during the season. Never good for offensive linemen to get older, and coming off injuries doesn't help. But he still was a mainstay in center at that offensive line. So I think that was a huge loss. Him or Will Freeze, the offensive guard, who also was hurt.
So you just took both of mine. That was awesome.
Yep. Okay, non-first round rookie who's going to
get to talk. All right. Go ahead. This is like hanging out with Steve Risley.
What do you mean? What happened?
Who will be back soon. At least he better be. What? Well, you didn't even ask me my biggest loss. I know you did. I was just messing with you. But all right. So when we look at the draft, I mean, Tyler Warren was a great number one pick. When I look at this, hell, it might be Riley Leonard. He might be your starter someday, just because the other two quarterbacks are so bad. And I think Riley Leonard is a dude that has every bit the ability that the other two quarterbacks have here. The only ability he doesn't have right now is he hasn't failed miserably in the NFL. So maybe that's your guy. I wasn't blown away by this draft. I think that I just wasn't blown away with the draft, dude. I love the Tyler Warren pick. I think you got a couple other decent picks there, but I'm just gonna go contrarian and go Riley Leonard because I think Riley Leonard might possibly be better than the other two junkers.
Yo, he might. I mean, Dan Jones isn't that good.
I mean, Riley Leonard probably can't be any worse, and I guarantee you Riley Leonard's better than Anthony Richardson.
Riley Leonard's probably gonna see some time if he makes the team. That's almost a guarantee. Whether it's because these other two guys suck or they get hurt or whatever.
The other two guys suck, so that's why they don't have to get hurt. It just may take longer to get in for Riley, but I put it like this: they'll start the season out probably 2-8, and at some point they're going to give Riley Leonard a shot, just so that they know if they have to waste a number one draft pick on a quarterback next year or not.
Nice, and there's going to be a few good ones for him to pick from, but I'm going to go with DJ Giddens, the running back out of Kansas State that they drafted in the fifth round. I'm sorry. I don't know how he dropped this far, to be honest. There was a lot of hype around him coming into the draft. He's a physical runner, 6 foot 215, one of the better runners in the class, had a good 40 time, good test time otherwise. With Jonathan Taylor's injury history, I don't see why this kid doesn't see the field at some point and see some relevant time. And if he might very well run away with the job because I think he's that good. And Taylor keeps missing time. He always gets nicked up one way or the other.
Well, they overuse him. This way, maybe they don't have to. They put them both in the backfield. Maybe you can extend what you get out of Taylor for a couple more years.
Giddens could be a sneaky, useful pick. And that's only because I don't see much out of Jalen Travis this year unless there's some injuries up front. I think Justin Whaley or Whaley, whatever his name is. I'm terrible with pronunciations. I think he was a reach in the third round. And JT, the edge rusher out of Ohio State, Tuimoa Alau. I hope I got that right.
That was just, you nailed that.
Well, I hope I got it close. I like that pick. I think he's going to be a good piece.
You got the top part right, I think.
Huh?
I think you got the top part right.
Good. That's a start. I'll work on that for next week. You can do the name right, but I like that pick too, and I think he'll be a good piece of their edge rotation. But I think Giddens has the ability to have the most impact as a rookie. And now, finally, did they get better, get worse, or stay the same, Mike?
Well, they still have no quarterback. I think their defense is a little bit better. You got Tyler Warren. I think overall they did get better. But the problem is this. I mean, you can have the best car in the world. All right. I mean, the greatest car ever to run at the Daytona 500. No car's ever been so fast. But then when the car starts, your driver that gets in is Ray Charles. You're fucked either way. That's Anthony Richardson.
Damn. It's a weird analogy, but I like it. Uh-oh.
What? What'd you do?
Oh no, I thought the screen froze. Sorry. Anyway, so they stayed the same. They got worse because they did.
I think they got a little bit better, but it doesn't matter because Ray Charles is still driving the car. So they're still gonna, only left turns. He's gonna run into that first corner and just smack into the wall, and that's gonna be it. And he's gonna pull a muscle, and he's gonna be out, and there you go. That's Anthony Richardson.
Terrible.
And if Anthony Richardson gets really tired, he'll have to take a breather. So then Daniel Jones and Riley Leonard will both get a shot.
Dude, that's something else for a whole other conversation that we'll get into.
But it's perfect that this is June 30th and it's still Pride Month because that's what Anthony Richardson represents. Go ahead.
Nice. So for me, I'm going to say that this team stayed the same. Maybe got a little worse.
I think they got a little better. They'll still suck. But.
The losses on the O-line, it's never fun to lose a couple guys who are quality pieces. Tyler Warren was a good get at tight end, but I don't think they have enough at the quarterback position. I don't trust Jones, even though
they don't have anything at the quarterback position unless Riley Leonard's a real deal.
And at the end of the day, that's what wins you chips: elite quarterback play.
Yep.
But anyway, let's move on from the Colts.
Unless you're the Eagles and you build a super team around an average quarterback, that works too.
That does work too, but unfortunately, the Colts are not anything close to that. So let's go to the Jacksonville Jaguars best off-season edition. I'm going to start this one, Mike, and I'm going to go with the obvious, and I'm going to go with Travis Hunter.
That's obvious.
Mostly because if you look at the guys that they re-signed or extended and the players that they brought in as free agents, Jordan Lewis, the slot cornerback from Dallas, might be the best addition. Patrick McCarry, the offensive guard from Baltimore, who's probably going to be a starter for them. Maybe that's the best addition. They're gross. I hate them. I don't hate them both. They're good players. They're probably going to be starters for this team. But compared to Travis Hunter, I hate him. I'm going to go with Travis Hunter. Low-hanging fruit, obvious, going to play both sides of the ball. I keep hearing conflicting reports on whether or not he's going to play mostly offense or mostly defense. It sounds like start on defense and work in offense because he needs the most work running routes and getting separation in and out of his breaks and things like that. So don't quote me on that, and it's still early. We'll go over more of this stuff when training camp rolls around. But, yeah, let's just say for now he starts at corner and works in out offense at receiver. I think it's a win. I think he'll be a stud at both spots, and I hope he succeeds at both spots.
There is no way in hell he will be a stud.
I hope he's going to be a stud.
He'll be lucky if he's a stud in one spot. He's going to be
5 picks and 1,000 receiving yards.
He's going to be a bust.
10 total touchdowns. Let's go.
He played the NFL last year? Why are you giving me stats from Colorado?
That's what I want. I want to see 800 yards receiving, 8 touchdowns minimum, and 2 interceptions.
Well, how about this? I can turn the best pick and also the worst pick all at the same time and have one gigantic paragraph for you.
Okay.
I believe the best thing to do for this team was to clean house, which is what they did.
Mm-hmm.
The house needed to be cleaned probably a year ago.
Yeah.
Now, the worst pickup, the worst thing they did was hire Liam Cohn. All right. Remember, I always talk about the feminization of sports. That's Liam Cohn. And, I mean, if you saw the guy's press conference, He reminds me a lot of that douchebag in Miami. So I think what you did is you got rid of Gladstone, or you brought in Gladstone and Cohen. You got rid of a couple guys that probably needed to be gotten rid of, but maybe get some football guys in there. I think this is a joke. This team is in deep crap. I think also coaching has a lot to do with whether Travis Hunter is going to work out or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's an awful lot to ask a young man to play two positions in the NFL. Not many guys have been able to do that. I don't think he's a game changer. I don't think he's Jamar Chase on one side. And I definitely don't think he's that great of a cornerback. I think he is a very good football player if used correctly. Mm-hmm. Should probably play one side of the ball. I don't know why you would want to use him on both sides of the ball. I mean, this is not college. You're not going to have him in for 120 snaps. So does he really make a big enough difference? Is it better to use him 40 snaps on offense, 40 snaps on defense? Or is it better to pick one and just let him play 90 snaps?
Well, I mean, that's why he went second overall. It's because of that talent and ability on both sides of the ball.
But he doesn't have that talent and ability.
He has the physical talent. Athleticism is not a question. He's got decent hands. He's just raw. He's raw when it comes to route running. He doesn't know what he's doing in and out of breaks.
You're kind of answering your own question of why this is a bad pick that high.
But a lot of, that's the thing. He's not a finished product, but you want to get him the ball in space. And if you could get him a couple bubble screens, you get him a couple reverses, you put him on.
I'm bringing in a guy in the second pick to run bubble screens and reverses.
The point is to work him in. And hopefully, like you said, the coaching is decent.
No, the coaching is bad. The coaching is atrocious. The coach shouldn't even be a coach. His name is freaking Liam. All right. His name is Liam.
Wasn't he the offensive coordinator for the Bucs? I mean,
he was offensive coordinator in a lot of places. Yeah. Did you see what Baker Mayfield had to say about him after he left? I think Baker threw a party, but I'm not sure. Bobby Hunt says, is Trevor Lawrence out if the Jaguars stink again? The Jaguars are going to stink again. And we're getting to the point where Trevor Lawrence, I didn't think it was a home run when this started like some people did. Remember that big debate we had when I said I thought Trevor Lawrence was a 50-50 and that 50% was going to be a bust?
Yeah, I remember you were not in. I was in.
And I'm not in because, I mean, he looks like Martina Navratilova. We went through this. And he's soft. He played at a soft college. I mean, come on. Clemson's soft.
Sunshine.
Yeah, Clemson's not really soft, but I think Trevor Lawrence is soft. I think he is an average quarter. He's put it like at Indianapolis, if they got Trevor Lawrence, he'd have a freaking parade. Nice. All right. But Trevor Lawrence he's not really had an opportunity. I mean, Doug Peterson's a good coach, it seems like, wherever he goes for a couple years, and it just kind of wears on everybody and it falls apart. So I think Trevor Lawrence, I mean, number one, you're probably paying him too much money for him to be out.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're stuck with Trevor Lawrence. Liam Cohen, hopefully you come to your senses and fire him after just one horrible year, maybe about week 9, because the guy is like the little douchebag in Miami. Was a little Mike McDaniels. I mean, well, the guy sucks. He just does. I mean, if you watch him, I mean, he could be in one of those pride parades with Liam.
Well, it is.
Maybe they could get married. ESPN would freaking love that.
So is Trevor Lawrence out if the Jaguars think again? I'm going to say yes. It
makes too much money, and nobody's going to give you anything for him if this goes to 3-14.
Well, I was going to say it might be a little tough financially, but where there's a will, there's a way. The team will eat $30 million, $40 million just to move on from a disastrous situation. Okay, so that was me. I think the biggest addition was Hunter. Who's your biggest addition?
I already told you. I turned it into 2, remember?
I don't remember.
Well, the biggest addition was the fact that they got rid of everybody, but the biggest negative was the people they replaced them with.
Right, and then we went off on a tangent. Okay, so the biggest loss then. Who was the biggest loss, Mike?
biggest loss for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, you're gonna have to pick one.
I don't know that there is one.
There's a couple I would mention.
I would say Brennan Schreff or Scherf, whatever the hell you call it, the guard. I think Mitch Morse, maybe. I mean, but I would say that I would say Brandon at guard is probably the biggest loss.
Okay, I am going to go with Evan Ingram. He only played 35% of the snaps last year due to injury, but when he played, he was one of the main options.
But hasn't that always been his problem? Being healthy?
Well, when he was with the Giants, the issue was dropping passes and staying healthy. But yeah, staying healthy has always been a question. But when he plays, he's been good. Even in Jacksonville, when he played, he put up good stats. So I think they're going to miss him. They're replacing him with Hunter and who's the other receiver that they brought in this offseason? Bunch of these, man. But Diami Brown was the other receiver they brought in this offseason. It's going to be gross out there. I think they're going to miss. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to miss Evan Ingram. And moving on from the loss is a little positive. Non-first round rookie who's going to make the biggest impact in year one.
Caleb Ransall or Ransall, the cornerback from Tulane. I think he could be good. But, I mean, once again, I don't think this was a very good draft by the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think it's okay.
No.
But it's slightly above average. I'd give them like a C+, B-. They don't blow me away with what they did here. And I still think Travis Hunter is going to be a huge risk because, remember, it's just like we talk a lot of times, the environment a rookie goes into has a lot to do with whether they're a bust or not. His environment has bust written all over it. Not him necessarily, but the environment does.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. Jacksonville's been a place of chaos the last few years. I like the Caleb Ransall pick. I'm going to go with Bashal Tutin, running back, 4.3, 240, athletic guy, fast. Big issue is ball security, 9 fumbles over the last 2 years.
That's like a really big issue.
Yeah, he's going to have to shore that up. But if he could hold on to the damn ball, which I saw it's possible. I saw Tiki Barber go from a fumble machine 1 year to Tom Coughlin coming in and fixing that shit in one offseason.
There aren't many Tiki Barbers, and there's no Tom Coughlin here. There's Liam Cohen.
I know that. I'm just saying. I'm just Jaguars, Tom Coughlin. I thought it was a fun throwback. You ruin everything. But anyway,
that's what I'm here for.
The the Jaguars running back room is gross. Tank and ETN, and I'm just not.
All their rooms are gross.
Tutin is got, like I said, the speed and the moving skills to make a play for the starting running back position sooner than later.
Let me ask you this: do you think Arch Manning, coached by Peyton Manning, could save them next year?
No, because I don't think Peyton Manning would be a good coach.
He would be better than Liam Cohen.
I think he'd be a good.
Put it like this: I think Liam Cohen is a good offensive coordinator, but there's a difference between an offensive coordinator and a head coach, and Liam Cohen ain't it.
That's fair.
Actually, I think every coach in this division sucks except for D'Amico Ryans, by the way.
You know what? I could agree with that. D'Amico Ryans is a beast. Okay. Final question for the Jaguars before we can move on from this terrible team, terrible franchise. Did this get better, get worse, or stay the same?
It got worse.
Simple.
Significantly worse. Doug Peterson has won a Super Bowl. He did get him to the playoffs. Liam Cohen's doing none of that.
I'm gonna say they got a little worse. I wrote down same on my paper here, but I'm gonna say a little bit worse.
Do you prepare for these shows?
Somewhat. Okay.
Cheating. Go ahead.
Let's move on from the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're making all right time. Final team, 4 questions. Tennessee Titans. I'm so excited to say terrible things about this team. Okay, best off-season edition, Mike.
Best off-season edition.
There's a few solid ones.
I think this. I think Cam Newton's 50 or Cam Ward is 50-50 here. But I would say to me, Kevin Zeitler at guard. I think Zeitler has been a top 5 guard in this league for the last decade. And it's actually maybe more than a decade now, because he was a stud with the Bengals for a few years, and then they decided it was time for him and Whitworth to go. That was a brilliant move.
Yep. He was good at Detroit. He was good with Baltimore, I believe.
He's good everywhere because he's good.
I like that. Old head. I'm going to go with Dan Moore, the offensive tackle that they signed over from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't like Moore. I don't think he's that good at left tackle. He wasn't anything special in Pittsburgh this past year. But he is kind of sort of the final piece of this puzzle for this offensive line. They've got their right tackle who they drafted in the first round last year. They got their guards. They got their center who they signed in free agency. It's last offseason. So this was kind of the last piece of the puzzle. Dan Moore's been the starter for the Steelers for the last couple of years. He's been okay. Hopefully he's a little better than that because they are giving him almost $21 million a year, which is gross. I hate the contract so very much. But as much of a gamble as it is, hopefully it works out for him. Otherwise, they're going to have a lot of the same disappointment. Cam Moore's going to be running for his life, and their O-line's butt. Biggest off-season loss.
There's no doubt. I'm starting this off because it has to be Mason Rudolph. I'm just kidding.
Mason.
I'm kidding. I would say Harold Landry, I guess. I don't know. I don't see any tremendous losses here.
Yeah, it's him or maybe Kenneth Murray, who they lost
right, linebacker.
Yeah. I mean, Westbrook, the wide receiver, scored 7-8 touchdowns for him last year.
No, they scored last year. Hey, remember when we had that debate about Will Levis, by the way?
I don't remember a debate about Will Levis.
You don't? We'll have to pull out the film then. Because I said he was a joke, and you said that you thought he had a chance to be good. You said he might be the best quarterback in that draft, Dan.
I don't remember it that way.
Okay. We'll bring it up on the next show.
We'll definitely have to go back and bring up that.
Find it. So you got to go back and find it, though. So
I'm curious about it because I don't remember ever being high.
You liked Will Levis.
I may have liked the potential, but I was never high.
There was no potential. He had none.
You gamble on those physical gifts.
You watch women's professional football. What?
Yes. Non-first round rookie
for the Tennessee Titans.
The Tennessee Titans will make an impact in their rookie season. There's a couple of really solid options. I'm curious to see which way you go on this one.
I'm curious to see too. Let's see. I'm just looking at it real quick so I can remember it. I think this. I would say. I think Kevin Winston Jr. from Penn State. I think he'll immediately start in the secondary. So I believe Winston by far is the best draft pick here. That wasn't the first round pick.
Dude, Winston could have been a first or second round pick if he was healthy. There was a lot of hype on him in 2023 before he got injured in 2024. There was a lot of hype on him, and I'm shocked he fell where he did, and I'm on board with that. I think he could be one of the steals of this draft, one of my favorite picks of this whole class. I'm going to go to the offensive side of the ball, though, and I'm going to go with Elik Aomanor, the wide receiver from Stanford.
Why do you always pick guys you can't say their names?
Because I want to challenge myself and try to learn new names and exotic things. So I'm going to go with him. They took him in the fourth round after they took Kamir Dike, the wide receiver from Florida, earlier in the fourth round, doubling up on the position wisely. Honestly, they could have probably swapped those two picks, and it would have been just fine as well. But I like that they got him when they did, and I like that.
I think this, Dan, if Cam Ward was to turn out to be the real deal, this is a team that could win this division. But I don't think he's going to turn out to be the real deal.
I mean, Cam Ward, if he has a season like we just saw with Daniels,
I don't think he's
capable
of that. I don't think he's capable of being as good as Daniels.
But yeah, I don't think that's.
He's not as good as Bo Nix, and he's not going to be.
and there's a lot of questions on that offense overall. Like Van Jefferson or one of these two rookies is most likely their wide receiver too.
Yeah, but this is the thing. You still have a 1,000-yard running back in Tony Pollard, and you have an offensive line that, they brought in Latham, they brought in Moore, Skoronski, Cushenberry. So the offensive line, at least they put what could be an improved offensive line, because we know even when the Titans were good, the offensive line could run block, but their pass blocking was bad.
Awful.
So I think if your offensive line is good, your running back's good, you got a better shot than if you come in here with an O-line that is questionable and you got one or two really good wide receivers. So I don't think they built this in a bad way. The problem is Brian Callahan's never going to be a successful head coach anyways.
Maybe his dad can shape up that offensive line.
You know what? This is the thing. The only way he got in the NFL was his daddy. So he might as well give his daddy a job because his daddy got him that one.
I mean, his dad's been historically seen as a good offensive line coach over the years.
A failure as a head coach. Remember, this is a man that went in to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who were coached by the guy who coached the Raiders the year before, and he kept all the audibles the same.
Well, that's why, like you said earlier, not everyone's cut out to go from offensive coordinator.
I mean, he's a great offensive line coach, and they've got good players there. His son was the offensive coordinator in Cincinnati, supposedly. And if he was calling the plays, they may have scored a lot of points, but that's because of the players. It wasn't because of the scheme or the play calling, because the scheme and the play calling in Cincinnati has been ass ever since Joe Burrow's been there, which is why Joe Burrow's the best quarterback in the league, because, he's got a couple 12-year-olds that coach his team.
Well, it sucks to suck.
But, they still have been to the Super Bowl where the Lions haven't. There's still probably more hope in Cincinnati than there is in Detroit.
Probably. I don't even think Detroit's making the playoffs this season. Spoiler.
I don't either.
Okay, last one. Did this team get better, worse, or stay the same?
I would say they got better. Not significantly better, maybe. This is all going to hinge on the Cam Ward pick. If this dude's a franchise quarterback, everything's great. This is a team that can win the division this year. If that pick is off and you're wrong or he's not quite ready yet, you got the same thing you had last year.
I'm going to say they got better.
Well, I will say this. Ward, I think, will be better than Levis at least.
He can't be any worse.
Yes, he can, because Anthony Richardson exists for a reason.
But even Levis was doing those 58% completion percentage and shit.
Oh, dude! Do you think that AR could complete 58% of his passes?
No.
Okay, so
there is worse.
Yes, Anthony Richardson and possibly Daniel Jones, and they're both on the same team.
Yeah, well.
Let me ask you this. Minka Fitzpatrick. All these Steelers fans were going nuts today because they got Jalen Ramsey, and then they found out they lost Minka Fitzpatrick. What the hell are the Steelers doing?
Yeah, honestly, dude, I don't know, man. Like, at first I thought, okay, maybe they got Ramsey for, a fourth-round pick or something. Awesome. But then, like, 10 minutes after the trade initially broke, it was, they one for one and a couple of draft picks. Oh, yeah, and then later on, they got Jonnu Smith as well thrown in there. It was a weird-ass trade. Minka Fitzpatrick is kind of living off of his name over the last couple of years because he's only got, one or two interceptions over the last two seasons, which if you're going to pay a safety a lot of money, you kind of hope that they're going to be a playmaker. You kind of hope they're going to do more than one interception on 17 games. And, yeah, he's a good run defender. Yes, he's a good leader and all that good stuff. But player-wise, production-wise, money-wise, I don't mind moving him. And Jalen Ramsey, if they start him at safety, I think that's a great move because I don't think he's cut out.
Yeah, but don't you think Jalen Ramsey is like one of the most overrated players of the past 5-10 years?
I do. At the very least, the last I
Minka Fitzpatrick is good. I think the key to this trade, and it may sound weird, is Aaron Rodgers a month ago, we weren't even sure if he was going to be the quarterback for the Steelers. Mm-hmm. Now he's 41 years old. But he has he's got a pretty good setup on offense, at least. I think this is going to hurt the Steelers defense. But you've got a number one in DK Metcalf on board, and now you've got two good tight ends in Jonnu Smith and of course Pat Fryermuth. Now I sound like you. So when you look at that, I don't think it's because obviously to me, I think Minka Fitzpatrick is a lot better player than Jalen Ramsey. I think Jalen Ramsey is kind of a head case. I think the dude that gets hurt. Don't know that I really want him on my team.
He was kind of burnt toast this past year too.
Yeah, I mean he's not what he's supposed to be. You can throw him at safety, but
that's why I'm saying like I think they've got.
Yeah, but you can throw him at safety, but I don't think you're getting a Pro Bowl safety. I think he is a significant downgrade from Fitzpatrick, but I think the Steelers wanted a second tight end for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, they wanted Jonnu Smith earlier in the offseason before the draft.
So how about this? Do you think maybe when they looked at it, they thought, well, we think Fitzpatrick's a better player than Ramsey, but he's not that much better. But we can make our offense better by bringing in Smith at tight end, and that kind of equals out the trade or maybe even gives you an advantage if Smith plays really well.
It's essentially two starters for one. And like I said, you got to consider the salary cap on this. I don't know what they're going to do with Jalen Ramsey's money, but those two.
You also got to consider Jalen Ramsey really wanted to get away from that little douche that coaches the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, Ramsey clearly wanted out. They did the right thing by him too. And honestly, I think this was a win for Pittsburgh. I think they made out very nicely.
I think it probably was. I think everything will be a win when you're playing the Dolphins this year, maybe.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. We're done with the AFC South. A little sprinkle in of the trade for today. Mike, any final thoughts or anything on the AFC South you want to touch on?
This is like always. I have no thoughts. That's why you ask me questions, so I can get my thoughts.
I love it. I don't have anything.
And I think this. I think right now, the way it stands, I think we both agree. Texans win the division.
I think that's a fair bet, but we're gonna have to wait till August to make those predictions final.
No, I said right now. I didn't say final. We'd actually have to wait till early September to make those predictions. The season didn't start till the second week of September now, right?
No, isn't it the first Wednesday?
Remember, they got a bye week after the last preseason game now, too, remember?
Nah, hold on, man. Now I want to see.
All right, good. Look it up. We'll see if I'm right or you're right.
Okay, here we go. So week 1 of the 2025 NFL season will be on Thursday, September 4th. So yeah, the Thursday after the holiday, first Thursday of the month. Cowboys, Eagles.
Ew, that's a horrible game.
Well, Dallas.
It's fun to watch the Cowboys get beat up, though.
It's going to be a good game because Dallas is healthy. Everyone's going to be on the field. So if they suck, great. But at least I'll have everybody playing, so there won't be any excuses. But yeah, so mid to late August is when we'll be.
All right, let's wrap this up, Dan.
Let's wrap it up. Thank you guys for tuning in. Bob, thanks for the question with Trevor Lawrence. Guys, give us a like, give us a follow on X, on Facebook, on YouTube, and we'll be here on sometime later on this week, tomorrow.
It might even be tomorrow. Probably will be. Just keep an eye out. We'll post about it by afternoon tomorrow.
And we'll be doing the AFC West and wrapping up the AFC before we go on to the NFC next week. For Mike Goodpaster, I'm Dan Kornhauser. Thank you guys for tuning in for another edition of the